All right, hello and good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. We'll just give you a few moments to let everyone sign in and get situated. All right, well, welcome. Hello. My name is Matthew DeGeeter, and I am the Senior Vice President of Strategic Enterprises at the American Society of Interior Designers. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's ASID Member Benefit Spotlight, Why Top Child Talent Chooses You Before You're Hiring. So this webinar is for current individual members and organizational partners, as well as those who are interested in joining ASID. Today's webinar features the ASID Member Talent Recruitment Program with our partner, Interior Talent. Ken, if you could advance to the next slide for us. There we go. Interior Talent offers tailored solutions to help your organization position itself as a leading employer and successfully recruit the industry's best talent. So in the next 20 minutes, we're actually going to cover the following. We're going to explore this ASID member benefit. You're going to learn how to sign up, and you're going to get your questions answered. So as attendees, your audio is muted and the chat is disabled. So please use that Q&A button on your toolbar to submit your questions for us to answer during the dedicated Q&A time. In today's Spotlight webinar, we're focusing on how you can shape your employer brand and recruitment strategy to consistently attract the right people, because top candidates form opinions about your company long before they apply. You'll learn ways to improve how your firm shows up to candidates and how to set up repeatable recruiting habits. And then we'll wrap up with insight into how the ASID Member Talent Recruitment Program can help you strengthen your presence in the interior design community to position, attract, or recruit top talent with 3 program options. So I'll be moderating today's webinar, and I am joined by Kenneth Roberts, Principal of Interior Talent. Ken is a nationally recognized executive recruiter who has shaped the landscape of interior design and architectural recruitment for over 2 decades, and is also a part of the Design Business by ASID program partner network, if you will, is our main point of contact for the Interior Talent partnership for our talent recruitment program. Tongue twister of talent recruitment right there, Ken. So welcome. Happy to have you with us today. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matt. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well and you're warm if you're in those storms or wherever that at. But we're so excited to have you on with us. And I'm so excited to once again do another wonderful webinar with the ASID. Well, this is going to be about 25 minutes or so, just so you know you're busy and some people are on lunch, what have you, or whatever you're doing in your day. But I just wanted to kind of talk about something that we are seeing as um, we get asked a lot of times from our clients about why we're having a difficult time, why they're having a difficult time hiring. And then when we work with our clients, we go through an evaluation to understand what their employer brand is. Everyone's always excited about their company brand, right? About their image, about their work, about how they are represented into the interior design community. Today, what I want to talk about is what's your employer brand? What your employer brand really is what it looks like for a potential employee, and what they're looking for as you as an employer. And it's important to understand is that, like Matt said, the reason why this is titled the way it is because employees make up their mind way before they even step in the door, right? Whether or not that's a company they feel that they could work at. And we want to talk about how to kind of maybe reshape your employer brand, or maybe even create your employer brand to make sure you're more attractive to potential candidates, because you always have to be looking for great talent, even when you're not ready, right? So let's talk about your employer brand for a second. So as I mentioned, this is really about what does it look like from an potential employee's perspective, right? So your employer brand really simply is just like, what's your reputation as a place to work? Like, what does it look like from an outside perspective of what people say about working at your company, right? It kind of makes them feel like, what does it feel like? What's going to feel like if I work there? How am I going to get along with the people? What kind of work am I going to do? Um, and everyone in this wonderful, we worked for 23 years. We're on our 24th year and working specifically with A&D. And most people, because they get in this industry because of the beautiful work that everybody does, and a lot of companies think that that's how I'm going to attract people because I do great work. And yes, that matters. But unfortunately, that beautiful work doesn't always automatically equal a great place to work. And by just showcasing your beautiful work, it doesn't let you highlight all the work that you've done to kind of let people know what it's like to work in your company, right? So your employee brand is really important. Employer brand is really important to kind of start thinking about. And we're going to talk about some things of how to kind of make some changes. Okay. Because you've spent all these years developing your company and its culture, and the image that you want to portray to the world, right? To potentially to your clients. Everyone's so worried about what their image is to their clients. And yes, that is so important because the clients pay the bills, right? But you have to look at the other side of this because without great talent, it's really difficult to do all that great work. And yes, we know that a lot of companies are smaller, but still you might need that one or two people, and it's going to be really important. So, you spent years developing your company culture, years, but do people know about it? Do people know what you've created over these years, what you've experimented with, and now you realize and found a great company culture? So let's talk about some of the places where candidates already start to form opinions, right? So yeah, I've looked at a lot of company websites, a lot of design firm websites over the years. I mean, thousands. And most of the websites highlight the work, of course, right? And when they talk about their team, sometimes it's very minimal. Sometimes it's non-existent. So these are just some things I want to talk about of how potential employees kind of already form their opinions, right? When they go on to a website, they see, is there a career page? And yes, when I say career page, some of you are thinking, well, Ken, I'm a small residential designer. I don't have this vast website, but you can put a splash page on your website that talks about any hiring you may have or need, right? That's your career page. So focusing on something that talks about as being an employee for your company, right? There's a lot of focus on obviously Instagram, right? And you're putting a lot of work into the work that you put on your website. But here's what happens is that companies are always focused on updating their Instagram, which is great. And a lot of employees will go there, but they don't update the work on their website. So you have to remember, you have to continue to update that to let people know what you're working on, right? Talking about your team is very important. People want to know, well, sometimes people want to know how many people work there. They want to understand the team's background. And so by just putting pictures of Jane Smith and John Doe as your designer and maybe your procurement person is not enough. Put a little bit about them. Get excited about talking about your team, about their experience, about where they went to school, maybe what their hobbies are, how long they've been with you, talking about, maybe their growth. Did they go from start as an intern and now is a senior designer? Super important to talk about the opportunity for growth and to expand someone's career. Talking about the leadership, understanding that maybe there's the principal, but is there a director of operations? Is there a design director? And understanding who those people are, right? These simple add-ons to your website don't have to be very complicated. Yes, of course, if you have a webmaster or you have somebody that you work with in your IT, you can do much more and you can expand upon these, but these can be simple splash pages within your website, right? The candidates will think about, your company by talking to people about what's the word of mouth on the design community. Do they talk to reps out there and they hear that is there turnover or, that, a lot of the people, there's not a lot of growth, or are they hearing that there is a lot of exciting stuff? right? And are your reps who you work quite closely with, are they sharing the right image and brand, your employer brand with people about you? A lot of people are, obviously everyone knows about Google reviews, but not a lot of focus on the community does a lot of focus on that. So I can tell you it makes a difference. So why Google reviews are important is because it helps you with your SEO, your search engine optimization. So it allows Google is very powerful, and if your company is well reviewed, it's going to highlight higher than others. Glassdoor is specifically a website where it talks about what's it like to work there, salaries, so on and so forth. If you have employees, I highly recommend to have them go and put a Glassdoor review about your company, how long they've worked there, what they love about it, what's the culture about, putting a little bit something on there so that if when someone does a search, it comes up and talks about your company and about what some of the great things about it. Now, you have to be prepared that someone could write something negative about your company, that an ex-employee could say something negative. Yes, that's possible. But understand that no news is not good news. If someone's out there looking as an employee, potential employee, looking to find out what they need to know about the culture, about the employees, about turnover, about they want some information. And I think everyone does take the Glassdoor reviews, if they are negative, with a little bit of grain of salt. But having no news is not necessarily better. So getting yourself out there and taking advantage of these Google reviews. The Google reviews are usually more from a perspective of your clients, of course, but making sure that you are getting good reviews because then people can see not only do you do beautiful work, but your clients are really excited about what you've done. And it does make a difference from an SEO perspective. How you how you show up when it comes from interviews perspective. What this means is that we've had a lot of candidates interview with a lot of companies over the years. And what's the experience of when they interview? And how do you focus on that process? What that means is that we've seen a lot of companies where they go through the interview process as just kind of like it's not it's important, but it's not really focused, meaning that it's usually quick, it's rushed. It's almost an inconvenience sometimes. And that experience from a potential employee, they feel that and they see that and they share that. Is it not convenient to the candidate? Is it more convenient for you as far as times? The person that you probably want to hire is gainfully employed, right? So being aware of that and making sure that you are making it a time, whether it's before working hours, after working hours, on the weekends, having a coffee, being flexible does sound out pretty clearly that you are going above and beyond that most people do not. And so how you come out for those interviews, who's involved, the time is spent, the experience that the candidate has, that goes a long way because potential candidates will talk about that. And they will talk about it usually more if it's not a good experience, right? So these are just some of the ways. There's other ways too, right? So they talk to people, they talk to current employees, of course, they talk to companies that you've worked with, and they kind of try to form their own opinion. But some of these things are easily for you to work on, right? So these are not that complicated, especially the first three of those, right? A careers page, make sure you're updating your imagery and then doing a little bit about your team, right? I think are really, really critical. Well, candidates really want to know when they're looking at an opportunity, right? So when you post a job, are you being pretty clear about what it is? But they want to understand um, they want clarity. They want to understand what it's going to take to do that job. How is success measured? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because how you present opportunities for hiring, maybe even how you talk about your team bios. A couple of great firms out there have done some really wonderful things with small, maybe like 30-second or 1-minute videos of their team. about the company culture, why they're employed, why they stay there. And so some of these things can be kind of sprinkled into that conversation. How is success measured, right? Is it just are you just worried about profitability? Are you worried about the client experience? Are you worried about, making sure that the team is, working well together, and how maybe a senior designer will treat the team? They want to know stability, right? So if they're going to leave a job, the person you want to hire, like I said, is probably employed, relatively happy. So if they make a change, they want stability. So they want to truly understand leadership. And this is one of the top reasons why people leave jobs is that they don't have faith in leadership, meaning there is not transparency. Leadership is not sharing what's going on. They don't feel that being managed correctly. So if you can highlight and talk about the leadership, maybe talk about the growth of the team through that. Maybe that someone's been with you for since they've been an intern and then they grew into a design director. Talking about the pipeline of work that you have. How do you do that? Talk about projects that are coming up, projects that are on the boards, right? Talking about the exciting stuff, using Instagram to highlight all the exciting stuff you're doing, right? Not just the finished projects, but as the projects are going through, maybe you just want a great new project and you're going to talk about it. And then, of course, just overall talking about your organization, right? Just people talking about how long you've been in business, what motivates you, what's been exciting about as your company's evolved, what's going to happen in the near horizon, right? From a creative perspective, they want to understand how do they can they kind of use their creative and design voice? What kind of exposure are they going to get to a project? Are they just going to be just doing CAD drawings? Okay, if that's the job, then talk about that. But if there's more to it, talk about the input they can have. I'm sure some people on this call, on this webinar, have worked with firms where the principal was 100% of the design creative voice. And if you're allowing, now you are realizing that you need someone that can be part of that process. If you're allowing someone to use that voice, make sure that candidates know that. Yes, of course, it may be only a smaller part of it, but it allows them to flex that muscle. So you can talk about that. And what that means to a potential candidate means that there's an opportunity to go from a place where I do not have much of a creative voice, where now I can have more input. Like I mentioned before, talking about growth, right? Whether it's from a mentorship, from leadership or from the owner, talking about do you support them to get an NCIDQ or maybe some other type of certification, additional learning. Are you taking them to High Point? Are you taking them to Gather? Are you taking them to any other conference and about those things that you do and you make those annual events? Talking about the growth is critical. Even though you do it only and not sharing it with the world, only your team knows this. So from a perspective of the candidate that's out there that you would love to attract, how do they know this? They don't, right? So that's the challenge is that, you want to get this information across so that the world can see all the great things you're doing, right? Then, of course, the respect aspect of it. Are you managing the workload? Is there a balance, right? Or, I just spoke to a client last week and they were adamant about no personal cell phones are to be used with their clients. Adamant, right? The clients never get a personal cell phone number for the team because they have very strict boundaries that the team does not get called on their personal cell phones outside of 9 to 5. I forget what something along those hours. But they were very adamant about that. So that boundary was really great to know that a candidate that would be coming from a firm where there could be called or texted all crazy hours knows that there are very strict boundaries and that they can have that balance. But then also, what's the communication like? Are you really making sure that there's transparency in your team to your team about what's happening, right? Whether it's about changes in leadership, the pipeline, What's going to happen with the structure? Is there communication about your hiring needs to your team to let them know that you are trying to find another great candidate to help expand the company? All these things are what candidates really want to know, and so much more, but these are the big things. So now talking about, some of these hiring challenges we hear from design firms is that, that most companies wait until they are at the point of absolute desperation before they start recruiting. And to be very honest with you, you should be recruiting almost all the time. And what that means is, I tell our clients all the time is that when that really great person comes along, you have to be ready. But if that really great candidate doesn't know that you're looking, how are they going to know that there's an opportunity? I don't think someone's going to knock on your door when you don't have something posted and be like, "Hey, I'd like to work here." Doesn't happen very often. So always looking for that great candidate rather than when there's a 911 situation. Not relying just on job boards, right? Yeah, there's LinkedIn, there's Indeed, of course, there's ASID's amazing job board, but those are all great resources. But you have to use Instagram. You can use TikTok. Obviously, like I said, your own company website. You can post things to other boards, right? To boards on LinkedIn. There's other communities, whether it's posting something on, let's say, Business and Home, not just on job boards, using the ASID community portal, right? Talking about that you're hiring. Let let the masses of ASID members help you to expand upon your hiring needs. I mentioned job descriptions before. A simple job description is not the best, right? That vague, kind of simple junior designer, mid-level designer. Be specific. Be Get down to the nitty-gritty, right? Of course, you want to make it attractive and talk about what's really important. And know this real quick, you can't have, not everything is a must-have to be, these are, and they're not all requirements. Some things be requirements. Remember, requirements are usually maybe 5 points, and then the rest are nice to have because people do get scared when they look at a job posting that has all these requirements. Talking about a career growth plan or path is super important, right? Even the job description. So if you're not sharing what that looks like, if you're someone's coming in as a junior or a mid-level designer, and you're not talking about how they can become a senior designer, a project manager, or whatever that looks like, it's a missed opportunity, right? Making sure that you're talking really clearly about your culture. Like I said earlier, you could be in business for 10, 15 years. You've spent all this time developing this culture of family first mentality, let's say, that you have balance of work-life balance, that you're very much, focused on, if your team was going to wants to have children and allowing them to come back to work part-time, whatever that looks like, talk about that. It's really powerful. But if you don't communicate your culture, right? And it's not a work hard, play hard culture. Everybody wants to work hard, play hard, I guess, in a sense. But if you have this really warm family environment that does have this balance, talk about that. And then everyone's worried about these larger firms out there that just have a bigger visibility. But what's great is that 50% of more than 50% of the interior design firms out there are under 5 employees. I think it's the majority of them, almost solopreneurs, right? So if you just do a little bit more, like I said, expand upon your website a little bit more, have a little bit more creative job description, you're going to look like a bigger firm, right? Even with 2 or 3 employees. So doing some of these things that don't cost a lot of money, if minimal, but building upon that will help you truly stand out, right? And you got to remember there's some things that when it comes to practical, kind of always recruiting habits that I want to make sure that we talk about, right? So when I mentioned you're always recruiting, these are some of the things you should be doing, right? So one is that you should always refresh your career page, whatever that page looks like on your website. Don't just have, we're always looking to hire. I don't think that's a good tactic, right? You should be specific, right? So you know what your company is going to need. You know that if someone's going to go on maternity leave or you have big projects coming out, so be visible about what that looks like, right? So don't just have the stagnant job out there. Even if there's not a specific right this second need, talk about what some of those opportunities look like on your website. Not putting real team bios, like put bios about your team, talk about them as a human. They're not just a designer. They're a real person that has a dog, maybe. They love gardening. They do watercolors, whatever they do, right? Talk about them. Talking about all the great things you probably do as a company. Do you do company outings? Did you go to High Point together and take some pictures? Did you have a holiday party? Did you take them to a spa day? Whatever that looks like. All these wonderful things that you spend time and money on, it's okay to share that with the world, right? Communicating, your company values, you know, sometimes being really specific of what your company values are is really important, right? Do you have core values? Have you talked about that before? Putting them on a job description and talking, making sure they're posted on your website in that on that page that talks about hiring, right? And your team. It's really important that people understand that they're just not buzzwords, but there's something real that's important to you, right? Like one of our big ones is we're always continuously learning, right? We are not perfect, and we're always learning from our wins and our losses, right? So we talk about that all the time as a company. All right. Keeping a warm list. This is something that you got to always do. Keeping a warm list of people that you'd hire someday, right? So maybe there's specific firms out there you think people are that the firms are fantastic. Maybe there's a designer or two out there that you've always had your eye on. So if they just happen to come by or they somehow were interested, you got to keep that list of people that you think would just be great. Maybe it's a specific position, not necessarily a person, but a specific position that you'd be willing to hire, but you got to keep that warm list. But it's always good to have specific people too, so that you can kind of maybe put out to the world. Maybe it's through your reps that know somebody there. You can talk to that person that might just get that person's ear for a second and say, hey, so and so design firm would be really interested in having a conversation with you. And just do one small recruiting tactic every month, right? Whether it's put something out in an A to say community portal, whether it's posting a new something on your LinkedIn page, posting something on TikTok, Instagram, right? Using Instagram and TikTok, right? Video content about you and your next project and how something big is coming along and you're going to need a new designer, or maybe you need someone to work in your resource library. Doing something every month to move that forward, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Once you get some of these things in set, this is maybe a couple hours a month, right? And look how much that will help you down the road, right? So let's talk about this three-part strategy as we kind of get too close to the conclusion here. Is it talks about being visible, right? Stay top of mind in the design community. Make sure that people know who you are, what you stand for, what's your culture like, what you're looking for as far as talent, right? Be clear. Communicate what makes your firm worth joining. Talking about your culture, about all the wonderful things that you've created over the years, as far as from an employer perspective, not just the beautiful work you do, right? And be consistent, right? Relationships beat job posts all the time, meaning you're talking to people out there, talking about your team, out there talking about your potential hiring. Utilize your network. I'm sure there's people out there that, they've used, whether it's contractors or maybe they hired somebody they don't need anymore. Just being vocal about what you need is going to be really important, right? So in this kind of bonus checklist, we talked about we wanted something that was going to be really special, like simple and easy for you to use. So you're going to be able to email us if you want at marketing at Interior Talent for this checklist. Basically, it allows you to you break it into 7 areas and puts time limits on these tasks so you know exactly what you need to do. It does not need to be a full-time job just to build your employer brand, but it must be a priority project, right? So email us and really make sure that you are doing something to kind of continue to move this forward. So um, thinking about all this. I want you to pick up three actions that are going to implement this week. Start building some relationships so that you kind of with talent now. And then I want to talk about the ASAD member recruitment program.
That's great, Ken. Thank you so much for going through all of that and, to giving us some really actionable insights on what our members and our audience can be doing. And we've got a great resource for you through the talent recruitment program. I'm just going to call out for the audience as well, reminder for the Q&A, an opportunity there. And I think before we jump into this talent recruitment piece, because we've got just a couple of minutes left, we want to be really, cautious of everyone's time. And thank you for joining us today. Ken, you brought up about building faith in your leadership or understanding, how to approach negative reviews or things like in between, Glassdoor or Google. And I did look up in the ASID State of Interior Design report that we actually published at the end of 2025, and over 98% of interior design firms are small businesses.
Yep.
So if you're in a
Huge.
really small business and maybe it's just you, or you're only hiring one person a year working with such few employees, what would be a way to help build your credibility or build that faith and leadership, especially with that social media that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, what's great is that when you're a small firm, first of all, Google reviews for your clients is easy. Just sending them a link and saying, thank you so much. Part of our feedback is really, your feedback is super important. We loved your feedback. You had a great experience. Let the world know you had a great experience, right? That's the easy one. But from a perspective of, people talk about like even if you had a contractor, right, that was working with you, Matt, and you just did an exit, like, what did you love working with us? Love to understand your feedback. What can we do better? Those things are important. And if someone had a good experience, even as a contractor, they can go to Glassdoor and put a post. Ask somebody, right? You don't have to have a lot of reviews on Glassdoor to make an impact. I mean, you can have two or three and it'd be huge. I give you a really strong score, right? So it doesn't have to be, it's not necessarily a numbers game. It's just having some presence out there that a lot of us forget to ask, right? We forget to ask for, people to share those, positive experiences. So
It's a great point of advice, especially with all the consultants that you may be working through and all the partners that you may have on
yeah,
any given project. Great,
exactly.
great advice there. So
Yeah.
tell us more about the talent recruitment program and the three package options we've got.
Yes, thank you. So basically, this was a great honor for us to kind of come together with ASAD to create this package. This is really designed to kind of give members three options to help them kind of look at what they need to do to bring on some additional talent. So we have three packages. The base package really is just kind of making sure it's kind of called hire preparedness. Like, what are you doing to kind of make sure that you're truly ready to hire? Maybe it's that first employee, which is a lot of the members have, maybe never hired. And so we want to make sure you get a consultation with us. Let us know exactly, we can tell you exactly what you need to do. We want feedback on a questionnaire that we're going to present to you, hiring toolkit, make sure you know how to use LinkedIn, just kind of give you a little bit more outside. The next enhanced package, and all the information is also on the Iowa City website, but the enhanced package is really designed to take a little bit further. Let's go deeper. You've kind of done this before, but now you need real advice on how to get things going. So we go much more in-depth coaching. We could do a total redevelopment of your job description. We look at your LinkedIn and make sure you can know how to search using LinkedIn effectively because it is a great tool. We review your interviewing process, make sure you're building the best mousetrap possible. And then we just make really great recommendations. We're giving you information that we use, right? We're not afraid to share what we do, right? There's lots of great information, so we're sharing some really specific things. We sit in on an interview and then we audit that with you to kind of go over and say, okay, here's some things that you need to be careful about saying, maybe things you forgot to talk about, maybe you didn't talk about your culture enough, or questions you didn't ask. And so we give you real good coaching to make sure you're doing the best job. And then, of course, our premier package is really where we kind of take it all for you. We give you a discounted rate. It's full service recruitment. We do it all. right? So we make sure that it's out of you're just making sure we are a great ambassador for your company, consultations throughout the process, redeveloping job descriptions, interview process, the whole soup to nuts. And we go find great candidates that you want to meet with and help you through that process, all the way to the point where they're sitting in that desk working on that next project.
Perfect. Thanks, Ken. What I
Yep.
really appreciate about the basic and enhanced and premium options here are that no matter where you are in this process or what type of talent you're looking for, we have an option for you. So a lot of what we've been presenting today about, being prepared even before you're hiring, that's where that basic package can really help you out. And
Yeah.
so if you have on your, trajectory for your firm over the next year that you're looking to hire, you can take that step now and start to really consider how you're positioning. And so maybe if it's 6 months from now, 12 months from now, you're ready to go. And so then you're building up that momentum and building that brand as a future employer too. Perfect. Thank you for bringing this up for getting started. We have a dedicated web page as well, and there is a form there. So Ken, you had mentioned that too. So we want you to get started by clicking that form and filling that out. That goes directly to Ken and the interior talent team because they just want to learn more about what you're looking for. And so they can actually really help navigate for you in particular and find the best solution for your talent needs. Anything else with that, Ken, for how you work with somebody in particular?
No, once we have that information, we'll set up a call just to understand what's going to be best for them and guide them to what it's going to make sure that they have great success.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, because this is all tailored. This is a tailored approach for what you need because your company is unique. Your talent needs are probably unique. And so we want to be able to make sure that we're getting the right people to the right opportunity to help you and your firm as well.
Yep.
As we wrap up, just a few things about design business. So in addition to the talent recruitment program, ASID has a portfolio of programs available through Design Business by ASID, and most of these are exclusive to you as ASID members. And so this is to help support your design practice. So you can take a look at our member health insurance program, professional liability insurance, our retirement plan program, obviously the talent recruitment program we just presented today, our contracts, and we also even have more coming up in the next few months across 2026. And then take advantage of the rest of the Design by ASID resources that we have for you. So this includes Design Careers, as mentioned earlier today, Design Connection, Design Finder, Design Learning, and Design Research, all of these by ASID and available to you as members. So that does conclude our webinar today, featuring the Member Talent Recruitment Program. Big thanks to Design Business by ASID program partner Interior Talent and Ken Roberts for sharing all of your insight with our audience today. We will have a recording from today's webinar available on the ASID YouTube channel, linked on the ASID website, and shared in Design Connection by ASID. Please be sure to fill out our attendee survey at the end. Your feedback helps us improve this program and gets you the follow-up information you need. So thank you for joining us today and have a great one.
Bye, everyone. Take care.